high time to leave China, and I'm going to India. I'm going to like get a job as a bus driver and just get going with life. So I'm no. Let me be honest now, guys. You have watched the news and you have.
Sorry, guys. That was. Ooh, wait. Let me turn on my lights. Okay, so give me a 1 if you can hear me okay. I don't want to be talking for an hour and then you guys tell me, oh man, all the audio's messed up. Give me a 1 if you can hear me okay. I am back for the second time today because I just want to have a conversation with my people. If you want to come in, you're welcome to hop in. I will put the link in the comments. I'm really trying to gain an understanding of the narrative or the collective narrative of African Americans in 2025. Because if I told you that I understand what our people are thinking, if I told you I understand what my community is thinking, I would be lying to you. Because it really seems like we are out here like a boat without a sail, with like a boat without a rudder. Like it does not seem like Black America collectively has any idea of what direction we want to go in. Okay, so I'm watching all the reports about the tariffs on China. Donald Trump is basically, he started a trade war with China. It's looking like Donald Trump is winning the trade war, right? 70 something nations have come to the table. They've let Donald Trump know that they want to come and talk business. Yet China is still holding out, continuing to raise tariffs on U.S. goods. And honestly, I don't see anybody around the world. Come on, Alan, tell me. Come on, Alan. Click that link, baby. Click that link, baby. I don't see anyone around the world that's choosing to defy Trump. We're having a conversation, so I don't know everything about it. But you guys can come up and help me at least gain some type of understanding of what's going on with our people and this whole narrative where I'm seeing Black people, they're jumping up defending China, and I don't understand what African American people gain by defending China. Like, is there some type of offer that China has made to African Americans that I don't know about? Has Xi Jinping offered Black folks in America some type of special deal where if we take his side over our own country, America, he's going to hook us up? I don't understand why Black American people constantly throw our support behind people who offer us nothing at all. First, it was the Democrats. Now it's the People's Republic of China. Can anyone tell me how many Black businesses are in China right now? Can anyone tell me the population of Black people from anywhere in China right now? Last I checked, it was 500,000, which is 0.04% of the population. Y'all help me understand, because I see so many people jumping out like, China's the best thing. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm not arguing with you as far as you asserting that China's the best ever, but I'm definitely asking questions as to how you could possibly know that as a Black person living in America, most of whom don't even got a passport. I'm really trying to understand. Crimson Nebula, this is what I always thought. The U.S. gave Black jobs to China. Of course, we're talking about the factory jobs, the auto manufacturing jobs, right? The steel mill jobs, all these jobs. And now are complaining about the Chinese taking black jobs. But I don't understand how the US gave China black jobs and now are complaining about the Chinese taking black jobs. What I see is a bunch of politicians for many years were incentivized to give over black jobs to China. And now there's a new president in who recognizes the geopolitical mistakes that our country has been making for decades, outsourcing all of our production and manufacturing. And he's working to bring that production and manufacturing back to America, or at the very least, diversify our manufacturing and production away from China. I don't understand why black people have a problem with that. I mean, send this to your black friends, send this to your liberal friends. Maybe they could explain it to me. See, because what I'm noticing about a lot of these people, they have a lot of opinions, they have a lot of assertions, but when you ask for them to explain their logic, explain how their thinking and their opinion helps African American people or American people, period, they seem a bit lost for words, and it turns into incoherent babble about Trump. So Trump is bringing back black jobs to AAs. I mean, I feel like Trump is bringing back jobs to more than just African Americans. I feel like Trump is bringing manufacturing jobs or attempting to bring manufacturing jobs back to America. But isn't that what presidents are supposed to do? Isn't that what the American people said they need? We need jobs. We need jobs, and we need good paying jobs, not McDonald's, Chuck E. Cheese, and IHOP. We need good paying jobs. So why is there so much pushback now that Donald Trump is throwing in the tariffs? I would really like to ask Alan HB how in the heck Trump is losing this trade war, because from what I'm seeing, bro is smacking China right in the face. And Trump has people coming to the table ready to talk business. Let's check out what Jesse Waters has to say, while hopefully some of these people who, I mean, Alan, you jumped out there quick. I want to know why I should believe the black people and what they're saying about this trade war, whom I know most of us don't know anything about it. Why should I believe them over experts? That's what I don't understand. The experts are saying this is a good thing. The experts are saying this is long overdue. But the black guy on Instagram is telling me this is not good. Why? Because the orange man is bad. They're not breaking down the numbers. They're not showing you the negative blowback that this might cause. They're just saying this is not good because the only reason this is not good is because it's Trump's idea. And I would like to ask those people, if this idea is not good because it's Trump's idea, well, then why did Biden support it? Why did Biden increase the tariffs on China during his tenure if this was not a good idea? I just want my people to give me something I can stand on in solidarity with you, because I'm kind of tired of having to constantly disagree with my own because we are taking stances, but we don't understand the context of this.
Trump told you this morning it was a great time to buy. Did you listen? If you did, you're rich.
The markets right now are extremely good.
Trump told you this morning it was a great time to buy. Did you listen? If you did, you're rich.
The markets right now are extremely good.
The stock market had its best day in American history. The president announced he's pausing reciprocal tariffs for 90 days on every country and dropping all tariffs 10% on all countries except China. China just got hit with a 125% tariff. They're the only country that lost, and they lost big. And that's the point. China never picked up the phone. Instead, they retaliated. The rest of the world, our allies, wouldn't stop calling.
These countries are calling us up, kissing my ass. They are dying to make a deal. Please, please, sir, make a deal. I'll do anything. I'll do anything, sir.
Trump created maximum leverage for himself, and now his team's sitting pretty, taking meetings and doing deals that put America first. And if we don't like how the negotiation's going, our partners have seen the kind of pain we can cause, and they're motivated to do what we want. or else we'll make them feel the same pain. Everyone said you don't want to be last to come to the table, and China was last.
We saw the successful negotiating strategy that President Trump implemented a week ago today. It has brought more than 75 countries forward to negotiate. It took great courage for him to stay the course until this moment. And what we have ended up with here, as I told everyone a week ago, they're in this very spot, do not retaliate and you will be rewarded. So every country in the world who wants to come and negotiate, we are willing to hear you.
This was a test. If you called, you're an ally, and we fly you in for a trade summit. China didn't call this morning. They retaliated with an 84% tariff on American exports. And that told us exactly who they were, not our friends. This was a trap, and China walked right into it.
This was his strategy all along, and that you might even say that he goaded China into a bad position. They responded. They have shown themselves to the world to be the bad actors, and we are willing to cooperate with our allies and with our trading partners who did not retaliate. It wasn't a hard message. Don't retaliate. Things will turn out well.
A trapped rat lashes out. So we have to manage the death of China so that we don't get sick. China's embarrassed about being so isolated, so we have to throw them a great funeral and tell them it's a birthday party.
Okay, so Alan, Trump's not winning this trade war. Now,
No.
I'm going to wait a minute. I'm going to tell you what I understand Trump to have said when he talked about tariffs, and you can tell me where I'm wrong. So when Donald Trump was running for president, he was like, yo, I'm going to use tariffs as a negotiating tool to bring countries who have been ripping the United States off to the table to negotiate new terms for tariffs and trade in global trade. Did you not understand that to be what Trump said?
It's a false premise, but yeah, sure.
Okay, so that's what Trump said. So now Trump put the tariffs on. 70 some odd countries have come to the table. They've hit Trump up. We want to talk. We want to negotiate, right? First, some countries were acting tough, the EU, all these different countries. Now they're at the table ready to renegotiate trade and tariffs and in global trade. If Trump told you exactly why he was doing tariffs, and the result of that was exactly the result he said he wanted, which was to bring these countries back to the table. If I'm looking at the EU's finance minister, right, Ursula von der Leyen, who was talking tough a couple days ago, now she says, I welcome President Trump's announcement to pause reciprocal tariffs. It's an important step towards stabilizing the global economy. Clear, predictable conditions are essential for trade and supply chains to function. Tariffs are taxes that only hurt businesses and consumers. That's why I've consistently advocated for a 0-0 tariff agreement between the European Union and the United States. Now, this woman, we know she's a liar, right? Because they were tariffing the hell out of our products in Europe. Now she's talking about a 0-0 tariff agreement. So Trump basically has got this woman to come to the table, right, and say, we're willing to negotiate a 0-0 tariff agreement, whereas in the past, we had no tariffs on their products, but they were putting tariffs between 10 and 30% on our products that were going to the EU. How is that not a win?
Well, again, you're starting off with the false premise. So let me go ahead and just and give you my perspective. We can go from there. Okay. At the end of the day, Donald Trump came out and is working in a very schizophrenic manner. Okay, to be honest, he's putting he literally put tariffs on the entire world, right? And then within the next day took it back. And because people responded to that and said that, hey, we would like to negotiate, you're running around claiming victory when all that's happened is the guy's made a fool out of himself.
I don't understand how he made a fool out of himself when he said literally, I am using tariffs to get people to the negotiating table to renegotiate.
That's not what he originally said. When he slapped
tell me what he originally said.
When he slapped a 10% tariffs on every country in the Caribbean.
Okay.
And then on top of that, after Marco Rubio had come to the Caribbean and actually led us to the CARICOM to believe everything was going to be all right, and then out of nowhere decides he's going to slap a 34% tariffs on goods coming from Guyana for just for ha-has.
Okay.
What he's doing is not a victory. Long term, it is a failure. What he's done is he's shown that the United States is unstable. He's shown that the United States, based on depending on who they have in office, is not reliable. Not that Biden was either. Biden was a horrible actor as well, to be fair. And what is showing is that the United States is not to be trusted or relied upon. And as a result, what's going to end up happening is there's going to be a repositioning and reshuffling of things going forward, where people in different regions just are going to realize not to purchase more things from the United States. That's already happening in Canada. That's already happening in CARICOM is going to follow suit and is going to do the same thing.
Okay.
That is in fact what's happening.
Okay,
He is taking the world and driving it further towards China as opposed to towards the United States.
Alan,
that's not where the position the United States wants to be.
Alan, further towards China for what?
For what? But they don't want to deal with somebody who's a bully. People are finding it's more attractive to be offered a multipolar world than to deal with a bipolar United States.
Alan, China doesn't buy anything from anybody.
That's fine. They supply.
Alan, let me just say this. You're a smart dude, but I think you lost the plot. Listen, everything that the United States is doing is based on one advantage that we have over everybody else. And you know what that is. What is it, Alan?
The market. The market.
No, not the market. What? Yeah, the market, right. Our ability to purchase goods from other countries, right?
Right.
So you think if you alienate the largest consumer market in the world, you will be able to recoup those losses by every country on the planet starting to sell stuff in China? When China's put 30 and 40% tariffs on everything coming in?
No. What I'm saying is that what China seems to be offering to the world, which is the answer to your original question, is why are Black people, and when I speak of Black people, I'm speaking on Black people globally, including African Americans. Okay, why are Black people siding with China in this? Well, first of all, it's because typically most African Americans don't like Trump. We've talked about that ad nauseum, right? That's number one. Number two, when you talk to people like myself, when you feel as if this guy is playing with very vulnerable smaller countries just to do it.
I get what
it makes you look at it very differently.
Understand, Alan, but I'm trying to see how going from paying 30% taxes to paying no taxes for access to European markets, Asian markets, Caribbean markets, South American markets, how is that bad?
I'm just explaining to you why it's bad. It's bad because it may say that on paper, but it's not. What's going to end up happening is that the United States has isolated itself, and in isolating itself, and trying to bully people and bully other countries, China is China's not going to stand because they know full well that China, being the number 2 country, has to stand up to that. They can't do it. Even Trump acknowledges that.
Let me ask you
Trump even acknowledged that. He said they're very proud people. They have to stand up to it. So let me ask you this question.
If someone
one last thing. This is a unnecessary trade war that is picked by the United States. And when I got off of the whole idea of what Trump was doing is when he foolishly went ahead and went after Canada for absolutely no reason. And they're doing the same thing in the entire Western Hemisphere with the Caribbean and other places. It's a no-go. That's all I was trying to say.
Okay, so You're telling me, so this is what you're telling me. You're telling me that if someone's been slapping you in the face for 50 years and you turn around and slap them back once, you are now the bully.
That's not what's happened. Listen,
Alan, are you
the United
wait
States,
a minute,
the United
Alan,
States.
let me ask you a question. So you're telling me that the trade agreements between us and the rest of the world have not been unfair for the past 50 years since the Marshall Plan?
Let me explain this to you. First of all, as the world's hegemon, you've assumed responsibility for the world. Number one. So the Marshall Plan was a plan drawn by the United States for the United States. Yes, it was.
The
Marshall Plan
was a plan that was drawn to help European economies rebuild after
by the
being
United States,
by
by the United States, right.
But they couldn't rebuild themselves. Their factories, their entire production was destroyed, bro. So how are they going to build it themselves?
Gotcha. I didn't say they could build it themselves. I said it was the agreement set up by the United States. That was the moment the United States became the world hegemon, basically, right? And as the leading hegemonic power in the world at the time, that was a part of the responsibility that comes with being a hegemon. Hegemon doesn't mean that you just get to collect, which is what Trump seems to think. No, hegemon means you. Bro, being a hegemon means you assume responsibility for certain places within the world, and so that is the missing component of Trump and his whole worldview about this entire thing.
Okay,
it's not ripping off. As a matter of fact, he's out there claiming that Panama is ripping off. Panama's not ripping anybody off.
No, what Panama's doing, and you know better, what Panama's doing is allowing China to control the Panama Canal, which is giving China in my opinion, unsafe control over
Panama,
the U.S.
China does not have control of the Panama Canal.
Bruh,
what they did was they went ahead and they used the Panama Canal, right? And they use it for shipping routes and shipping lanes, right? And what the United States is trying to do is cut them off with good reason. You see a threat, you see people there, but to pretend as if the Panamanians have any power to stop the Chinese from being someplace is and say that the Panamanians are being unfair to the Americans is just nonsense. That place, that the Panama is itself in many respects is a creation of the United States. It's never been a country that's going to go ahead and stop anybody from using the canal. They know that.
All right. So basically, every American business person who does business in America is wrong. And you are right, because you got a feeling that this is not going to work. For decades.
No, it's not business people. Okay.
Okay. So for decades, right? American business people have been complaining about the unfair practices of China, stealing intellectual property, stealing people's IP, intellectual property. And then when you can't even go to court and sue them for stealing. So what I don't understand is how
I'm not arguing that.
How a communist regime where you have no rights when you do business within their country is a more reliable trading partner where another country can sue our government and win. It has happened many times. We basically have a free market open for trade, and we basically give everybody a hearing if they feel like there's some type of injustice that's been committed. What are you talking about, bro? I'll give you a prime example right now. A personal friend.
Well, I can answer to what you were saying.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm not arguing that China isn't stealing intellectual property. Isn't the counterfeiters the greatest counterfeiters on the face of the planet? I own several of their counterfeit stuff. so I'm not arguing against that, right? They have whole websites dedicated to doing counterfeit stuff and selling it to people at a lower price, right? That's not what I'm arguing. I don't think anybody with sense is arguing that. What I'm saying is that Trump has gone ahead, instead of working surgically with these tariffs, he's decided to use a meat cleaver and just start chopping, right? And what he's done is he's kind of chopped certain and got into people's business in different regions of the world where the people are, out here wondering who can rely on the United States. Who
I
can
don't think
rely on
anyone,
the?
no one's wondering that because everyone is calling in like, okay, let's make a deal.
No, make it.
75 countries have called Trump and now are scheduled to come in for a trade summit. What are
Got
you
you, but
talking
that
about?
doesn't.
Trump's
That
stuff
doesn't
works.
mean that's not working. That's not working. And you're going
Why
to
is
see it long term. You're going to see it long term because
I don't think
again,
so.
the United States has proven itself to be an unreliable
Bro,
partner. Not, and I'm
listen,
not gonna, and to be fair, I'm not going to blame that just on Donald Trump
Alan,
because
if you listen, Alan,
Biden was just as unreliable.
Alan, okay, let's do this. Let's say you
Mhm.
got two women, right? One woman promises you that she gonna give you some nookie, right? But every time
Yeah.
you go over to the house, she like, yo, I'll give you some nookie, but first you gotta clean the garage. I'll give you some nookie, but first you gotta change my oil on my car. I'll give you some nookie, but then you gotta wash my car. I'll give you some nookie, but then you gotta cut my grass, right? So you might get the nookie after doing all this stuff. You might get it once in a blue moon. Or she might say, hey, I'm not gonna do it just because I don't want to. The other girl, she been giving you nookie faithfully. You come over there for some nookie, she give it to you every time. But one day she says, look, man, I got the light bill is due. The light bill is $50. And you know what? I need you to help me with this light bill. I've been giving you this nookie faithfully, but you know what? I need help right now. And I think it is not too much to ask from a man I've been giving nookie for nothing for all this time to help me out with $50 for the light bill. Are you going to then turn around and say that, oh, you unreliable, you trying to use me? Or are you going to say, no, it makes total sense that every now and then I can help this woman out with a bill or something like that because she's always hooking me up, giving me some nookie, always being there when I need her, versus the woman who every time you go over there, she's taking you through the gauntlet, trying to get all she can out of you before she gives you nookie, and then sometimes she doesn't. That's America. At what point would you like America to have finally stood up for herself, Alan, understanding that Trump only has 4 years in office? It is very likely that if he didn't do this stuff within the next 4 years, the next administration will walk back all this stuff or just totally ignore it and fall in line with the special interest. How would you have preferred Trump to handle it, Alan?
For myself, if you have an issue with China, deal with China. All right. To compare this to a woman with that's a weird analogy. I don't.
Ain't no weird analogy. Shut up, Alan.
It's a very weird
You know
analogy.
exactly what I'm talking about.
I know what you're saying, but it's a weird analogy. And
you might act like a virgin. You ain't a virgin, Alan.
I think it's a weird analogy when you talk about geopolitics, because again, the point I'm trying to make is that for the United States for Trump to go out here with his grievance agenda and talk about how everybody's being picked on, how the United States is being picked on, is utterly ridiculous. For him to go ahead and try to be heavy-handed with Panama and act as if Panama has done something unfair to the United States is absurd. It's absurd. That's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. If he had handled it, if he'd gone about this and handled this differently, it would be better. I wouldn't agree with it 100%, but it would be better. If you got a problem with China, do something with China. But to include the entire world, to pretty much make an announcement, you're threatening the tariffs on the entire world. You're threatening basically to choke out a region like the Caribbean, right, or places like Panama and stuff like that are your sphere of influence, right? For just because you have a problem with China, what it does is it pushes countries over towards China, because China then becomes a more reliable actor. China has been allowed to go into countries like Barbados, like Jamaica, like African countries, and to do public works projects that the United States and England said they couldn't even do, that weren't even possible. And so what they've done is they've developed a lot of goodwill with other places and shown to be a more reliable partner.
Who's developed goodwill, bro?
The Chinese have developed goodwill with some of these, many of the third world countries around the planet.
The Chinese have developed a system where they will give you money and they will not be in your personal business as a country, which is fine. But it also opens up these countries, including African countries, to all types of corruption and abuse. Bro, you're gonna tell me, a person who's been in Kenya, I watched as they took years and years and years to build that express highway, The project was basically frozen, right? Because Uhuru Kenyatta and them have been stealing all the money, right? The only reason they then I watched as the UN told the president of Kenya, they said, look, if we keep having a traffic issue on Mombasa Road to where it takes us an hour and 2 and 3 hours to go down a road where it should take us about 20 minutes to get to the UN headquarters, we're going to move the UN headquarters from Nairobi, Kenya to another country. Bro, within 6 months, that project was completed.
Gotcha.
The Chinese didn't care because as Uhuru then was thieving the money, they were just racking up debt to the point where they were about to take ownership or take control of the Kenyan ports. How the hell is that reliable? That's predatory lending.
Of course, but it's far less predatory than what the World Bank does. To be honest,
the World Bank is not trying to take over your port. If
the World Bank is not trying to take over your ports, but the World Bank is going to strap your country down in forever debt and accrue interest.
Because the World Bank is trying to make sure that when you take out a loan, talking about you trying to build infrastructure, you are going to build infrastructure. Not take.
They don't make sure. They don't make sure of that. They don't make sure of that.
Bro,
I can give you plenty of examples where they do not. No, they do not.
Well, let me tell you this. The World Bank is not trying to take over your country by getting you into a predatory debt situation where they're taking over all your means to generate money. Look at how China is doing in Jamaica. Look at what China was trying to do in Kenya. Look at what China's trying to do in Nigeria. Look at all these countries where China is taking.
Let's talk Jamaica real quick then. Let's talk about Jamaica real quick. Okay, what they did there was they set up a highway, right, which was able to
toll road.
It became a toll road, right? But the British who were in charge of the country for the longest time was the colonial master, and the Americans said they could not cut through that mountain. They couldn't get through that thing, and it was not possible. The Chinese came over with the better technology, and they were able to make that road possible. And then now Jamaica has a highway, and it's pretty much helped with is part of the infrastructure that has actually helped with the resurgence of Jamaica in recent years for them economically.
The Jamaicans aren't even using that highway. If you talk
you're right. The average Jamaican is not using it, but businesses are, and it's helped everybody in that country.
Listen,
can I add something, Brandon?
Of course you can.
Sure.
The main thing about China is that China's benefit is that it has extremely cheap labor costs. Right. Whatever you want to manufacture in China, comparative to say United States or Mexico or Europe, you have a significant amount of cost, in comparison. And what Trump is doing with the tariffs is that he's taking that one advantage that China has built its country solely upon out of the equation. If he increases the tariffs to say, well, let's just say it's like 200, 300% or whatever, right? The countries that are dealing businesses with China, their cost is going to go up because we are China's #1 trading partner. And if they can't sell their goods here at a decent profit, then it's going to collapse their economy.
Right.
And that's going to bring them down to the negotiation table as been designed for, all these other countries that have beforehand, before China decided to increase theirs. You already had like around 50 to 100 countries already saying, "Hey, Trump, we want to negotiate with you."
Yeah, that's why I don't get how Trump's losing. He's winning, and he's doing it quickly. He's doing it quickly because one, he only has 4 years in office. Two, you have to do it while you still have the leverage. Pretty soon, the United States will not be the world's #1 consumer. Right now, we're consuming more than the entire world combined. That's not always going to be the case as people are earning more globally. Right now, you got people in Africa making money. They're buying shit. So this is what I don't understand. It's like, Alan, when I look at people like you, I think like U.S. is getting screwed and we're just supposed to keep getting screwed until Alan feels good about us.
The United States is not the United States is not getting screwed, and if the
We
United
are
States is getting screwed,
Alan. We're
hold on,
paying tariffs on every.
let me finish.
Bro, listen,
Let me finish.
no, bro. If you're paying tariffs and they're not paying tariffs, they're screwing you. Because if I start a business selling wine and I want to go sell that in France, I got Negro. What was it called? What was it called? The malt liquor. The malt liquor. What was it called?
Schlitz malt liquor. Schlitz.
Whatever.
Schlitz.
If I got Schlitz malt liquor, right? Okay. And I want to sell that in France. When
Coke
I
45.
import that, I might want to sell a 6-pack for $5.99. I send that to France. They're putting $5 on it, so it's like $10.99. And then the French brand is $5 less. And then when they send the French brand to America, there's no tariff on that. So they get to sell it at cost and make money. You're not giving me fair access to your market.
But listen, the problem is not the fair access to the market. The problem is that I heard Trump sitting around talking about selling American cars, and there's no Chevrolet being driven in Germany and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The reason why,
and it's like nobody wants
Germany is because the reason
nobody
why
wants
there's
American
no
cars.
No, because the reason why is because it's prohibitively expensive to import a car from the United States to Germany. Because
So you don't think it has to do with American quality?
With Germany and most European countries, you have what's called a VAT, or a value-added tax. Basically, say for instance, you want to import a Corvette, right? You're in Berlin. You want to do Z06.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of paying $110,000 like an American would, you gotta pay an extra 80 grand on top of that. So instead of paying 110 grand for your Corvette Z06, you might want to buy switch to say a BMW M3 or M4. That's half the price.
I'm gonna tell you why you're wrong. The reason why you're wrong is because the first of all, the American cars are not known for stellar quality, especially to a German consumer, or even to anybody else out in the world. Toyota is known as the benchmark of mass production and quality for a vehicle, right? And so people are willing to pay bigger bucks in other countries for a Toyota than they are for an American car. That's number one. So that's a competitive thing. Number two, the issue is now these Chinese cars are all over the place. BYD just put a dealership in Jamaica. You know what I mean? And so now
and they're cheap as hell.
You have
that's
no, they're not.
That's what I'm getting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, you're right. They're cheap as hell because they're selling a $6,000 and $10,000 and $15,000 cars. And some of them even rival some of the lower end, or even rival some of the lower end Teslas. So that is what's happening. America's getting beat. And guess what? You would find the same thing happening if they ever allowed those Chinese cars in the United States, which they should never do and they will never do. But if they do that, then you would see the same thing. Who's not going to buy a $6,000 electric vehicle over a Tesla that's $45,000?
Well, if I'm being employed by Tesla, maybe I would actually, buy a Tesla. But here's the thing, though. With the Chinese-made cars, the reason why that it's attractive is because the customer base is shopping based upon price, not perceived value. Because if I want to get my Chinese car serviced, there's not a whole lot of infrastructure here in America, or if I was living in say in Europe with their brands. You know what I'm saying?
You're absolutely right.
Listen,
you're absolutely right.
Wait a minute.
You know what I'm saying?
Let me give an example. Okay, some of the shittiest cars you could buy are like Aston Martins, Alfa Romeos. These are crap cars, right?
Aston Martins ain't crap.
Aston Martins,
they're some of the most beautiful cars in the world, man. You crazy as hell.
No, they're very crappy and problematic as far as mechanical issues, right?
Thank you. You're right.
So listen, there is still a market for it. There were 381. I want to say there were like hundreds of thousands of Fords that were bought in UK. There's dealerships for Fords in the UK. But they're not able to sell as much because of the tariffs on it. Jeeps, Jeeps are also crap cars that I don't think Jeeps are made in the UK. But I'm just saying there's so many cars that are good. There's so many cars that are bad. But you're not telling me that no one in the UK wants to drive a Corvette. You know what I'm saying? No one in the UK wants to drive a big ass Chevy truck. There are reliable American cars that have stood the test of time. Chevy's trucks are reliable. Ford trucks are reliable.
Chevy is reliable. Makes good cars and good products and reliable car.
So why
but
can't
it's
Chevy
not
sell cars in the UK? Because
they're not. Well, not just because of tariffs. What's happening all over Europe is what I'm trying to tell you is these Chinese brands are entering the space. And once those Chinese brands enter the space and they're able to give people, they have a thing now where they said by the end of the year, they're going to have a battery that charges in 5 minutes. That's pretty much replicating filling your gas tank. And it has a range of 1,200 miles. Tesla's being beat with the technology and they're doing it cheaper. So it's just a matter of the market. Trump is saying it's unfair and that people are buying Chevrolets and it's because we're behind the technology and they're able to do it cheaper.
Everybody hates Sonics, right? Sonics is a burger chain that I feel like everyone hates. They don't like it. Most of the times you drive past the Sonics, it's empty. But that doesn't mean Sonics doesn't have access to sell in the market. That's the whole thing of capitalism, Alan. Even though you might not feel Chevy is a good car or Ford is a good car or whatever, that doesn't mean that they should be restricted from the market. And if you look at how many Chevy dealerships are in the UK, there's eight Chevrolet dealerships in the United Kingdom. Why? I'm sure Chevrolet, first of all, there wouldn't be 8 if they weren't selling cars. There would be like none. On top of that, why is it that they can have 100 Mercedes-Benz dealers in America, but we can only have 8 dealerships in their country? That doesn't make any sense. All the companies are thinking about doing is saying, look, we want access to your market, the same equal access that you have to our market. And you do understand there are cars that are made by Chevy. There are cars that are made by Toyota that do not get sold in America. Like if you go to Africa,
I agree with you on that.
Toyota models that you never see on the streets in America. Why? Because the capitalists, the owners of the means of production, they are very flexible when it comes to making things to suit the needs of the people of that area. Chevrolet could have a total line of cars that are only sold in the UK, but they have a hard time selling the car because if you buy the car, you're paying $20,000-$30,000 more in tariffs. That's not fair, Alan.
But people pay tariffs on goods in other countries all the time. My point to you is that people are willing to pay.
But they don't pay here.
Right. But people are willing, from my experience, from living someplace else, people are willing to pay tariffs for things they perceive as high quality. People are willing to pay those tariffs to get the Toyota Lantis that doesn't sell in the United States, but it's pretty much a different version of the Tacoma, right? But it's something that actually is sells very well in the Caribbean, and I don't know about other places, but I can tell you for a fact it sells very well in the Caribbean. And people pay additional money for it.
Alan,
are willing to pay the tariffs.
You are literally saying you're arguing for Americans, our stuff to be taxed, and then other people have access to our market and not get taxed.
That's not what I'm arguing. That's not what I'm arguing. That's not what I'm arguing. What I'm saying is that people around the world pay tariffs on all sorts of goods. That's not something that's particular to the United States.
Fine. And I can understand that. But what I'm telling you is the United States is like a giant when it comes to industry. We have people who want to do business globally. There's a reason why you don't see a lot of Americans starting businesses in other countries, because the tariffs are astronomical. You look, if a girl let me give you a prime example. Okay, so say I make soap in America, right? They might have some plants that are not available in the UK because, you know, the UK is basically like an island, right? So there's a lot of things that don't grow in the UK that grow here. So say I have some special soap with a certain plant that they don't have in the UK. Okay, I could take that soap and charge a very significant amount for that soap because they don't offer that product in the UK. But if a person in the UK says, man, I want this soap with this special, let's say that they can't get wheatgrass in the UK, for example. Okay, say I want to sell a soap with lavender and wheatgrass. Somebody came to America on vacation. They tried my soap. They loved it. Now they're trying to get it on Amazon in their country. Okay, they want to buy that soap, right? Okay, but it's $10 more. $10 more for that soap than it is for the local brand, but they don't got the wheatgrass and lavender, right? You are basically isolated. You're eliminating the American company from the market when America is not doing that to you. That's not fair.
Okay, and like I said, the only thing, I get where you're coming from. What I'm simply saying is that that's not exclusive to America and American products. At least not the places where I've been. I can tell you that there are things that come from other places that have tariffs on them, right?
Like
Non-regional products.
Name
Okay,
something.
for instance, when I was shopping in Barbados,
we talking about in America.
Oh, well, I'm just talking. I thought we were talking about tariffs overall. I thought you were talking about foreign markets.
Listen, man, you could keep bringing up those dusty little Caribbean countries. What I'm telling you is this: what is America putting tariffs on coming from these other countries? Nothing. We're doing fair business with them. We're giving them a fair shake. Hey, look, man, if it's $5.99, that's the price you put on it. Send it over here. We're gonna sell it for $5.99. We send our stuff over to their country. They trying to mark it up to keep it from selling.
Okay.
And I understand that in a third world country. In a third world country, I understand that. But in developed countries, hell no. France should not be doing that. UK should not be doing that. Canada should not be doing that. And the
markups in Canada are not very high. I spent a lot of time in Canada. Going to Canada this week. They're not. They don't mark up things. American products. Matter of fact, American products sell very well in Canada, and are very competitive.
American products.
Everything's marked up in Canada.
What you're also neglecting to factor in is the exchange rates of different currencies, right? Say for instance, I want to import say for instance, I live in Sydney, Australia, right? And I want to import, say, a Chevy Silverado, right?
Right.
The Chevy Silverado, if I buy the car, I bought the truck in the United States, the truck is, $50,000. And if I were to say buy it from from an importer in Sydney, I would be paying, say, 150 to 200,000 because the exchange rate from my Australian dollars to the United States dollar is less, depending on what the currency fluctuations, plus the value added taxes that they have, plus the import duties. You know what I'm saying? So, that $50,000 truck is costing me double or triple, if not more. There's other countries like Singapore, Malaysia. They have heavy import duties on things that you import from other countries. It doesn't matter where it's from. It could be from the country next door, and it'll still cost you double.
Okay, so I want to look at this chart right here. So before 2025, the Canada was putting a 25% tariff on $30 billion worth of U.S. goods, which included items like orange juice, peanut butter, and appliances, right? Okay, so TVs and all that. When Trump did this CUSMA, right, that was under Trump, basically that stripped the tariffs off of 98% of the goods. So Trump knew we were getting screwed over by Canada. Why should they charge us 25% and then we don't get to charge them nothing? I keep saying that's not fair, Alan. If I go and I go and I buy orange juice, right? Let's say the orange juice is $5, right? Okay, why am I gonna pay $6.25 extra? I mean $1.25 extra for orange juice when Canada is closer to Florida than California, but if it go to California, it's only $5. But then when they bring they nasty ass shit over here, we can't put nothing on we don't tariff nothing on their products. That is some straight nickel and dime predatory trading. Would you not agree? That's not a free and fair market. That is called
I agree, man.
market.
So
That's
if you
called
want,
market manipulation.
Fine.
Listen, bro, look, so
but America manipulates markets all the time and has more power in which to enforce that.
Okay,
And
which
I'll give
markets are they manipulating?
I'll give you the best the example I already gave. If the Chinese vehicles were allowed into the United States, even with a tariff, they would be cheaper and better than most anything that we have here, and it would absolutely decimate and destroy the American car market.
Where?
They're not allowed. Those vehicles are not allowed in the United States, and they could argue that that's not necessarily fair because you can't penalize us for having a cheaper, superior product.
Bro, that's listen, in a free market, you allow the Chinese cars in, and then the American car companies have to adjust based on what.
But but my point is that's not what's happening. What's happening is we're out here complaining about what America, we have our president out here talking about what Chevrolet is not allowed to do, when you just highlighted there are Chevrolet dealerships in foreign countries. There's only 8. There's only fine, 8. But there's 0 BYD in the United States.
But how many Toyota dealerships?
And it's illegal to have one over here. And if you bring one, they'll go ahead and they'll mark it up so with tariffs even before this current trade war, that would be cost prohibitive.
And the reason why is because China will not let us sell American cars there, Alan.
That's not why. The reason why is they would destroy. It would destroy the American car industry.
That's not true, Alan.
Oh my God! How's that not true?
Bro, people said that about Toyota. People said that about Hyundai. People been saying that for years. And Chevy them are
Toyota's making premium. Toyota has marked up their product. They're making premium products at this point. That's not the same as what we're talking about here.
I'm sorry, but like when you spend like $65,000-$70,000 for a mid-size Toyota Tacoma versus a full-size Ram at for the cheaper price, I'm sorry, but like you're doing something wrong with your pricing structure, man. Like the cars is my wheelhouse, man. And in China, in order for GM to actually be inside the Chinese market, they had to build their cars there. Buick is the only brand that is actually sold in China. And unlike, say, Toyota with Lexus, Buick is actually represented in China as a luxury brand. And the Chinese hold the Buick brand in high esteem.
China has 54 Chevy dealerships, bro. So what are you talking about?
We have 0, but America has 0 BYD. If it was all one way, as you're representing, then there would at least be 54 BYD dealerships in the United States. The reason why there are none is because of what I'm saying. It's not because of imbalance of that. No, it's because we're using protectionist stuff, and people honestly, people wouldn't care if that car was a piece of crap. For $6,000, they would try it.
Bro, do you know how many like high-end brands that have less than like 10 dealerships in the United States? You have car companies like Pagani, car companies like Koenigsegg that have few, and even Lotus, if you want to include them too. Correct. They have very few dealerships in the United States. But if you were to go to a Koenigsegg dealership, their cars are top quality. So it doesn't, just because a BYD is, $15,000 doesn't mean that it's a rare car. I mean,
nobody's saying it's premium rare car. The point I'm trying to make is that their whole deal is like they do with every other product, right? They go ahead, take a product, copy it, improve upon it, and then sell it at a cheaper price, right? And so
because that's all they can do is because they don't
correct,
have
correct. And why are they able to do that?
So
right?
if you okay.
Oh no, let me
Okay,
ask
so
you, why are
if
they able
I'm
to do
China,
that?
right? So if I'm China, right? If you have an idea for a product, right? If you have an idea for a product, you introduce it, to my, like say for instance, you have a barbecue sauce, right? You
Mhm.
come to my house. We're having a cookout. You have your ribs and whatever with your barbecue sauce, and I ask you, was like, oh, like I like your barbecue sauce. Like, what you have in it? It's like, oh, then you start rattling off the ingredients. Then next thing you know, I make the sauce and I start, copying and selling it to you, not giving you a cut of, of something that you made. You know what I'm saying? That's what
I got you.
China's been doing for the entire world.
I got you. And listen, but why are they able to do that? The reason why they're able to do that, I'm sitting here looking at a bicycle that I ride, right? And on my bicycle, it literally has a sticker that says designed in the USA, made in China, right?
Okay.
Same thing with MAGA hats.
So you're
And
basically a communist.
if you huh?
So you're basically a communist.
No, I'm not a communist. What I'm trying to
You
explain is
riding a
how the free
commie
market works.
bicycle?
Everybody rides a commie bike. Every bike is made in China.
Not my bike.
Where? What bike you ride that's not made in China?
I got a KNS.
Okay. All right. I have a giant Cypress.
Oh,
But it's those bikes are made in China. Trek, all these bikes that we buy are designed in the United States and shipped over there. Designs are shipped over there. We're complaining because our corporation is so greedy, didn't want to pay Americans, went ahead and sent all the designs over there, and then when they copied them after you sent them, now you're upset. And now they're able to go ahead
got sent over there in the first place because of the labor costs. That's the entire point I've been making, and you're making it for me. It's because
I got you.
Because China, like I said, China's only ace it has is because it can't innovate. It can do things. It can make things for cheap because it doesn't have the labor laws and doesn't have the wages that would be normally commanded if an equivalent American, or if a Serbian or a Spanish person, were to make the same exact product.
But now they're starting to innovate, and so
that's the thing. China doesn't innovate. China steals intellectual property.
Yes, but now they're starting to innovate. I'm not disagreeing. That's not what they've done, but now they're improving upon it. They've innovated.
They have no innovation, bro.
I just told you what they innovated. They innovated the electric car.
Here we go.
They've innovated the electric car battery.
First built the electric car? It was Ferdinand Porsche.
Yeah, right.
Ferdinand Porsche was the first person to actually make an electric car.
Yes.
So, like, everything else has been improving upon his designs. But
right. I'm not disagreeing. They stole intellectual property. I led by saying they steal intellectual property. What I'm saying is now we're getting to the point where they've innovated. The thing that's been the most scary thing for American politicians is that they've innovated AI and created an open source AI platform that's free and better in many ways than ChatGPT. And that's what's scaring the hell out of people about China. One of the things.
No one's scared of China, bro. What are you talking about?
Are you serious?
If all the countries pull their production out of China, China has no ability to innovate and create anything. That's why they don't create anything. That's why they want all the companies, corporations to come there so they can steal their intellectual property. I think Kevin O'Leary explains this better so people can get a grasp of what I'm saying, because Alan over here hating. Wait, listen to this.
Look, it's really ugly. The president won the election based on reducing costs, but he's enacted the largest tax increase we've seen in over 50 years. And you know who's going to pay the price? Americans shopping at Walmart, Americans shopping at Costco. We don't know the purpose of these tariffs. The only thing we do know is he's planning on taking tax revenue from Americans paying more at Walmart and Costco and putting that into tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans. It's totally gross, and it's putting us on the brink of a recession, could cost us tons of manufacturing jobs as we get into this trade war. It's a really disturbing policy. I hope he backs off.
But Kevin, he said there's a lot of deals that they're literally kissing his ass was the phrase he used, very eloquently. Where are the deals?
104% tariffs on China are not enough. I'm advocating 400%. I do business in China. They don't play by the rules. They've been in the WTO for decades. They have never abided by any of the rules they agreed to when they came in for decades. They cheat, they steal IP. I can't litigate in their courts. They take product, technology, they steal it, they manufacture it, and sell it back here. Never has an administration.
400% tariffs? What would that
I
look
want
like?
Xi on an airplane to Washington to level the playing field. It's just not about tariffs anymore. Nobody has taken on China yet, not the Europeans, no administration for decades. As someone who actually does business there, I've had enough. I speak for millions of Americans who have IP that have been stolen by the Chinese. I have nothing against the Chinese people. They brought great literacy, art, and tech to the world. The government cheats and steals, and finally, an administration, you may not like Trump, you may not like his style or his rhetoric, finally, an administration that puts up and says enough. 400% tariffs tomorrow morning. He'll tell you why. Xi can only stay the supreme leader if people are employed. If we wipe out any business there, because we are still 39% of all consumables on earth and 25% of the world's GDP, America is the #1 economy on earth with all the cards. We will not have that forever. It's time to squeeze Chinese heads into the wall now.
Well,
I'm
hold
not
on
talking
a
about
second,
tariffs
Kevin.
on
Well,
60
I hear you, but hold on. If we're talking about people, the average consumer, not necessarily the head honchos of businesses all across the globe, can they withstand the pressure of that sort of tax on the
It's
goods they're going to have?
short-lived. There will be
But what's your timeline compared to, you don't know the average American's timeline, what they can actually survive. There's people right now who can't survive
400% tomorrow morning, Xi's on an airplane to Washington to cut a deal.
What do you think?
Here's the thing, though. This is the perfect example of, I understand how it would benefit you, but that's not what the American people voted for. They voted because Trump said within 24 hours, costs will come down.
Trump supporters, by the way, you're talking about.
Well,
Especially.
Trump said that and there were people in the middle who said, okay, I'm going to vote for that. He also said he'd end the wars. That's not happening. We still have supply chain issues. So I just filled up my tank yesterday. Gas prices are not down. Rent, groceries, prices are not down.
These people are so ridiculous. They sat with Biden for 4 years, not doing shit, raising the price. Do you know that in 2022, the stock market fell 25% under Biden and no one said anything? Under Trump, it fell 9%. And oh my God, we're going to be in a recession. These people are literally just, let's look at anything possibly negative. Oh, there's still wars. There's this, there's that. Listen, man, everyone's negotiating. If you told me in 3 months Trump would have everybody at the table negotiating to end the wars, he would have China looking like an isolationist right now because everybody's coming to America to do business, I would have said, look, Trump is doing a great job. I want to let Recognize Game go ahead. Recognize Game, go ahead.
Yeah, what's up, Brandon?
What up?
Donald? Yo, I'm really not feeling the tariffs, man. I don't know if you are just willing to eat the cost or eat the losses that all the shareholders are taking right now, because obviously everybody's interested in buying the dip. You want to buy the dip, got it.
Right.
But there are people who already hold these shares right now, and they're taking a loss. All right, they're losing their shirt right now. So for us to say, hey, it's all good, just let it go for a few months or however long it takes for Trump to get done with this leveraging basically the American people's livelihood, because that's all he's doing. He's not using anything that he owns to leverage for these other things like O'Leary just said. He wants to get other things done, but he's using tariffs as a levy. I don't think it's fair to everybody who's taking a loss. And these are the American people. These are American companies. These are American consumers.
and shareholders. So everybody's taking a loss on this. And yeah, it sounds good. Hey, America's doing great. America's going to do better. But how can you say America's going to do better if the American people are taking a loss?
I just got a question to ask you, man. Now, you're actually right with about using it for leverage. The reason why he's using it for leverage is because he is driving the investors into the bond markets. The reason why they go into the bond markets is because it's usually a safer investment versus the regular market. Now, the Fed is privately owned, and it's going to be forced to lower the interest rates. And the reason why that he's using these tariffs as leverage is to refinance the interest on the national debt that is going to be coming due in a couple months, I think by the end of the year. Now, if you're not familiar with the entire the budget of the United States, is that a good chunk, I think, if I'm not mistaken, about 20% of the GDP is going to go towards financing the debt, which is roughly over, or I think like a $1.2 trillion, right? If we refinance that interest to say 500 billion, that's saving the United States taxpayer money. In addition to that, back over 100 years ago, before the income tax was actually a thing made by Congress, the entire country was run off of solely on tariffs. Besides the funding for a few wars. Now, what Trump is trying to do with his Commerce Secretary is, if you're making under $150,000 a year, you ain't paying nothing in taxes federally. Statewide, that's going to be a different story. But there's several other states, Mississippi included, that is reevaluating its tax structure. I think also Kentucky is lowering their taxes based upon their budgets. Now, if you're a resident, say in Knoxville, Memphis, Knoxville, Tennessee, or not Knoxville, Tennessee, of Kentucky, and each year or every couple of years your taxes are going down, you're saving money. That's money you can invest into a business, your home, your kids, whatever situation that you need. Now, I don't know about you, but last time I looked at my paycheck, the federal government's taking about 11% out of my paycheck. That's half of what the state's doing.
Right.
So if I'm saving 11% out of my money, if I'm taking home an extra 11%, that's several $1,000s over a couple of years, over the course of the year. I can do stuff with that. I can pay down my car note. I can do a lot of things with it.
So you basically you don't own any shares of any of these companies that are losing money.
Well, from what I'm reading,
well, if I have a 401k, which I do have through my job, yeah, I'm taking a hit. But also at the same time, if that means that I'm going to be saving money.
But this is I'm talking specifically about the markets.
But
the
listen,
market's also going to rebalance.
Hold on real quick. The markets haven't fell any more than they fell under Biden. They fell way more. Wait a minute. They fell way more under Biden. It's like this. So you're saying basically Americans don't like to feel pain. But like the song says, and it's cliche at this point, no pain, no gain. You can feel the pain now and create a more stable economic market in America based on fair trade. Or you could just keep on dealing with the relative comfort you're in right now until everything collapses, or until China has 100% of your workforce and you're like trying to figure out ways to make money like some of these other countries are doing because China's taking all your jobs. You could do it to where now American workers can't even build anything in America. They got to bring Chinese construction teams to build stuff because American companies can't even afford to pay people. There are no American companies. I'm not for that. We have to prepare things for the future for our children. And if I got to feel a little bit of pain, a little dip in the market here, a little dip in the market there, that's fine, because I understand that the market is not dipping because because all of a sudden we have no economic floor in the United States. The market dips because of uncertainty. people are not investing, people are leaving the market. That's fine, because I know those people will come back. They always do. I can look at the S&P 500 over its history. It has nothing but profits. It doesn't have any time in history, even a year, where it started, where it ended lower than where it started. It's profits year after year after year. So I don't understand why American people sit up and try to, stoke fear in a market, especially if you're in the NASDAQ, the Dow, or the S&P, where, dude, you could set your watch by it. These index funds have never not made a profit by the end of the year. So game recognized game, what are you so worried about?
I guess I'm considering all the individuals in their portfolios and how they're the people who have invested, how, like you said, the uncertainty in the market. Well, if Trump wakes up tomorrow and he increases tariffs or lowers tariffs, somebody's going to take a loss at the tune of whatever it may be that day. But it's not good for the people who already hold the shares.
They will take a loss, but they will then bounce back. I'm looking at.
Okay.
Let me show you something. Let me show you
Maybe,
something.
maybe.
Let me show you something.
Until when, Brandon?
Let me show you
all right,
this.
the market bounces back because
Yes.
this arbitrary move is made again to lower tariffs, and then when does he increase tariffs again if he's going to use
He's only
this as
here
a
for
lever?
4 years. I don't understand why you guys act like this guy's the king of America. Listen, man, this is what I'm going to go off of. This is more reliable than temporary fear, right? Right here, 2021. This thing finished 28% higher. Then 2022. Oh, it actually finished lower under Biden in 2022, 18%. But then 2023, it finished 26% higher. 2024, 25% higher. These funds, they don't typically lose money. So I'm not going to buy into this idea where it's like, oh man, it's never going to recover. It's going to recover because honestly, let's be real. China does not affect our market. Our market is affected by consumers. You know who consumers are? Americans. If we got 39% of the consumer leverage in the world, do you think Americans are going to suddenly stop buying? Do you know that home ownership, home buying applications rose 20% in the past month? Do you understand that?
I do.
Like,
and
okay,
I also understand that when there is a dip, that means that lots of people have lost their shirt. And yes, there will be other people who will want to buy their stocks and their bonds and their assets at a discount. Of course. But that's no good for the people who have already invested. Is all I'm saying.
The
So
housing,
if we want to ignore, well, the people are losing money every second as the Dow plummets. So we keep acting like that's not a person
Bruh,
losing
game,
all their money.
the housing market in
game,
DC has
game,
completely crashed. The
game.
housing market in the DC area has completely crashed, and as a direct result of what's been going on with Doge, and there are people who are clearly buying houses and stuff like that at a discount, which is their right and is what you're supposed to do in times like this. But there are people who I've talked to who have had houses with significant value, whose houses have dipped $100,000 and $200,000 in the DC area. It's a real problem, and it's a direct result of what Musk has been doing with Doge. So keep that in mind. Just because people have been buying stuff, there's a story behind that, and there's a crashing real estate market that has something to do with it, and it's a direct result of Doge and the policies of Donald Trump in the past month.
And also bear in mind, you're talking about how people are losing money with the Dow. People have been losing money since the 1970s when we got off for the gold standard through Nixon. We've been steadily losing money with our buying power from being off the gold standard. So losing money, continuously throughout the entire day, throughout the entire year, is nothing new. Every time that the government decides to spend money it does not have, or even money that it does have and over that, we still end up losing more and more buying power of our money. Because if I were to give you $1,000 in 1955, you would be significantly more richer than that same $1,000 in 2025. That's just fact.
The value of a dollar yesterday has been affected by the tariffs. Am I right or wrong about that?
No, it's been affected. It's been affected by the
Not the
actual
tariffs?
printing, the money supply, the printing of the money that we don't have.
As well
There's no gold to back that up. That's called
well
inflation.
as well as the tariffs. So we can point at other factors, of course, but we can also, with specificity, point at the tariffs that will increase prices on the consumer and the business owner and the importer. Period. Point blank, period.
Right.
So from yesterday or the day before the tariffs went in place, there was stability in the market regardless of the circumstances. When
it's
you
like,
are when you're an investor already and the Dow dips, you lose money. You can lose all your money in one night, in hours. So no, I don't agree with the arbitrary implementation of tariffs just to levy to get something else done that you want to do at the expense of the American people. I
that's
don't agree with it.
exactly what you do as a leader. You take a risk to have a big reward. And if what Trump does puts America on a path to progress for the next 30, 40 years, you're going to be sitting up saying, oh, it's so great. I'm making money, all that stuff. It's better than what the career politicians have been doing, which is absolutely nothing, letting us get to the point where we got to take drastic measures, bro. We can't sustain this way. Like, it's like being in debt and having a bunch of credit card debt. And then this stupidity. Sam Games, you know I love you, but God, America's standing because China's been paying. No, bro, the majority of American debt is owned by the American people, 79%. Please be quiet. Like, you guys don't even know the basics of your own economy. Oh, China owns America. The majority of American debt is owned by American people. We own the debt of our own country. So what are you talking about? China, we could pay China back what we owe them. They're here, take it, bye. Because our people hold the majority of our debt. Let me play this real quick. Maybe Charles Payne could bring a little sense to this equation and get Black folks to stop panicking.
The host of Making Money, Charles Payne, is here. All right, Charles, were you a panicking? You were a little bit of a panicking, weren't you? Were you?
Nah, no way, my man. No way at all. I told her, listen, we did some buying, a little bit of buying the last few days, but more importantly, I told people not to panic. Every single day on my show, our ratings have gone through the roof because people coming to see. I'm like one of the few people out there, and it's not just I'm saying don't panic. I'm showing historical facts, right? What's going on, what's happening here. And I love everything that you just said because this is about Main Street. Wall Street's going to get theirs. Anyone out there that doesn't think eventually Wall Street and the stock market will turn around haven't been paying attention for the last 3 years, 30 years, or 300 years. Don't worry about that part. It's time to start focusing on regular folks.
So when the people on CNBC, they call them your competitor, but no one watches them. They all watch you, Charles. When they panic and and their all eyeballs are popping out of their skulls and laying on the desk, it freaks everybody out. I wake up, I turn on CNBC to just check it out, see what it's doing. And it's like watching someone die on live television.
It is so infuriating to me because I think it's journalistic malpractice, and I'll tell you why. Those are smart people. They know the market as well. And this sort of thing, like, you know, anyone who panicked and sold NVIDIA 3 days ago, don't they regret it deeply already today? And here's the thing, Jesse, we've got two sets of data out there. One they call soft data. the surveys. And the surveys are really frightening. Of course they're frightening. People watch TV and get frightened 24 hours a day. You walk up to them with a clipboard and say, how do you feel? I'm scared. But after they tell you they're scared, they go into the store. You know what happened this morning before the tariff stuff? Delta reported earnings. Phenomenal. You know what else we learned? Last week, mortgage applications to buy new homes up 20%. So people are still living their lives and trying to have the American dream. And, so as mortgage rates come down, as gasoline prices go down, that's great for the economy. But so people are afraid, but they're living their lives.
So people call you a callous animal if you tell them not to panic. They say, if you say don't look at your 401k, don't look at your bank account, they say, what are you talking? How could you not look at my bank account? How could you say that? I've just lost.
I don't understand why people are always looking at the retirement. I want to correct some misinformation that Sam Games keeps putting in, and that just shows you these people are just they're empty boxes on the internet. So don't ever put any stock into what they're saying unless they come up here and show you their face and really tell you, like people we know, like Game Recognized Game, Alan, L.A. Thorne, Dave. But okay, so as of today, out of the United States $34 trillion of debt, $27 trillion of that is held by the United States public. China they don't even own the majority of U.S. debt when it comes to other countries. They own less of our debt than Japan. Japan owns 1.1 trillion, and China owns 74.9 billion. So the United States people are carrying the majority of the U.S. debt, man. We're carrying our own debt. Then we do that by taking out loans and all this stuff, with interest and all this type of stuff. So what are you guys talking about? I don't understand what you're talking about China. It's literally like looking at an ant and screaming when there's a big ass rhinoceros behind you a big ass rhino behind you about to run you over. Bro, you sound silly. Like when people say stuff like that, it just shows how little they know about the economy of the country they live in. And it's no excuse to be this ignorant because you have the internet where you can look this stuff up in seconds. Now I get Game Recognized Game Point. He's like, look, what about the little guy? What about the little guy if the market tanks 20%? He loses his shirt. He loses everything versus the big corporation that has 1 million shares, and if the market takes 20%, they're like, look, I could just chill, relax, like maybe Charles Payne. These guys have multiple $1 million invested. So they can take a hit and not worry about it. Whereas the new investor or the smaller investor, he doesn't have that space or that cushion to take those hits. What I would say is, look, you just got to start. You said what?
She needs sleep. That's what her problem the last 2 things.
Hey, y'all arguing with my wife on the thing.
Sorry, Brandon. Even leftists like Robert Reich, has a point. The bottom 50% of the United States owns 0.7% of stocks. The top 1% owns 50% of the stocks. So when the stock market is going crazy like it is, it's not exactly the poor who's getting washed in this. It's the rich.
Right.
Yeah, it's everybody who's holding shares.
Yeah.
And some people can stand it.
But what you're failing to understand
it's a middle class that's getting hosed. It's the middle class and even the upper middle class. No,
the top 1% that owns half the stocks.
They own half the stocks, but what I'm saying is that they can withstand fluctuations in the market, and actually these types of downturns become like yard sales for the rich.
Yeah, but
it's the people with the 401k who can't withstand that.
No, I think this is fear, like Sadiq said, fear porn, because if the retirements get hurt too bad, the government will give money to the banks that, they'll give money to they'll basically save those retirements. On top of that, usually the stock that the middle class own is attached to some type of like stock share agreement through their 401k with their company. So those are still large companies that can withstand, weather the storm of taking huge, big losses and stuff. And like I'm saying, the stock market has only fell by 9%. You just dealt with 25% under Biden. So why are you tripping?
No, that makes it 34%.
No,
that's
it bounced back from Biden.
All right, well, it's still not. It's not good every time it goes down. You see, if you bought shares of any company, and the situation was what it was when you bought it, and then it drops 9% overnight. I mean, what's that mean to a individual shareholder? You're still not really addressing
Well, I am
the
looking because
losses that are being incurred
okay,
by people who currently own shares who have to sell at dirt cheap prices
but
just
what
to not go completely bankrupt.
okay, but what I'm telling you is okay, I'm looking at my Berkshire Hathaway stock, right? Overall, this whole thing, okay, I'm still in the profit. I'm still my gains are still 48.1%.
We
So I
still
don't understand what you're talking about. Like I
we
get the
just getting started. We just getting started with the
but what I'm
tariffs.
telling you
There's
is there
more to
was a
come
surge in the markets yesterday. So what I'm telling you is even though I've taken some losses, I'm still in the positive.
until we have tomorrow when Trump says, "Hey, there's a tariff across the board increase 100%, 30%, however much he feels is going to get him in a position where he can leverage the tariff situation to get other things accomplished."
But when
Now,
he's
how long is that going to take? I don't know. It could take one day, but I know in that one day you can lose all your money.
well, but what I'm telling you is you gotta
Hey, if you
understand
panic,
this is
hey, if you're
speculation.
panicking, you want to sell it, contact Brandon, and Brandon will contact me, and I'll buy it from you.
Yes,
Well,
yes, sell it because I'm up. Listen, overall, okay. So my Goldfields, right? That right now. Shout out to Miss Berry because she sent me that, and my Berkshire Hathaway. I'm up 51% still. I don't see why you're tripping. You're losing from money that you gained. You haven't went into the money you invested yet. You haven't fallen below your investment.
on your Berkshire stock, you're good. Bless you.
And I'll pay for the
But
penalty to sell it to me.
there will be other tariffs, and there will be an increase in tariffs in the areas that there have
It
been
doesn't seem like
increases
it because
already
everyone's coming to the table.
to talk. But you
Yeah.
have a lot of faith in what Trump is doing, and
Listen,
I get it. I can dig it.
I'd rather Trump be doing something than doing nothing and letting us keep getting hosed to the point where our economy truly does collapse.
That's the typical politician. They have to do something, and sometimes it's better
No,
to just do nothing and
no,
let the market decide.
the typical politician does nothing and says, how much money will you pay me to continue to do nothing? That's the typical politician. That's what our politicians have been doing for the past 50 years. For like the past 30 years. They've been saying, look, how much are you willing to pay me to not make things fair for Americans? That's what Bush did. That's what Obama did. That's what Biden continued to do. That's what Clinton did. That's what Bush Sr. did. They said, look, give me money to let you retain an unfair advantage over the American worker. And Trump is putting an end to that. And I can't see a reason why I would not support that.
The American worker is going to be crushed, pummeled
Now,
by the increase
can
in
I say
prices,
something real
and that's a
quick?
fact.
Because I'm out running.
Okay, we got to go soon. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, just real quick. When you get a chance, go to Walmart and start looking at the tags. They're going to be replaced by the Vietnamese and the Filipinos. They're the ones going to be kind of cutting off China by its throat. So we don't need China. We don't need their merchandise because they've been using the Asian country to ship their shit to us. So Walmart's already made the deal. So you can see a lot of Chinese products disappear. You can see a lot of Vietnam and Philippines products filling up the stores, replacing the Chinese. That's all I got to say. The game's working. He's doing a great job. And I'm out. I'm going for a run. Finish my run.
Well, enjoy yourself. Be healthy.
Thanks.
Thank you for hopping up. Appreciate you. Always welcome. Hey, that's what I'm saying. You guys act like there are no other producers on earth. We are removing the monopoly that China has over the production of American goods. That's a good thing. That's
But that's not. But that's not what's happening.
That's not what's
That
happening
is
at
what's
But that's
all.
not what's
happening,
happening.
Not
bro.
That's not what's
exclusively.
happening.
These are the
And,
people.
let me give one fact that kind of explains why that's not going to happen. Americans are addicted to cheap Chinese goods, and so I don't think that's could necessarily be replaced. But let's say it can be, right? We stopped making steel. We stopped making chips.
We
We
did.
stopped. We went ahead and instead of making iPhones in Cupertino, California, we sent them off to China. Well, to be made, and that's how we're able to get the iPhone that we have so cheap. I watched a guy literally be asked, "How much do you think an iPhone will cost if they had to literally pick up everything and move it to Cupertino, California?" He said the iPhone would at least cost $3,500, if not more.
That's a
Right?
lie.
It
That's a
would cost.
lie.
I'm telling you, that's what the guy said. And it was,
It'll
and he
definitely
also
cost
said,
more.
said, how much would it
$3,500.
cost? How much would it cost for the Apple to move their entire production over here? He said it cost them at least $30 billion.
Bro, you act like people just gotta buy a damn iPhone, bro. This is good for the market. That means people will be incentivized to buy make other phones for cheaper in America. I promise you. Listen. Let me swear on my grave right now today. You will never in any of our lifetime pay over $2,000 for an iPhone. That's a fear-mongering tactic. Why would it cost you 100% more to make an iPhone when we know they're making this shit for pennies on the dollar with these huge markups and then bringing it to America and selling it for triple or even for 1,000% of what it costs to make it? That's not the way corporations work. They make it for as cheap as possible, then they sell it for as much as they can get for it. It will, to me, there would be even more honesty when it comes to the markups. Because let's look, you act like you can't buy a Samsung, dog. Our trade agreement with Korea is really good still. We can buy a Samsung. And Apple is not
But that's
about
not
to go
America.
out of business.
But that's not. Listen, you're talking about buying a Korean phone over a product that's essentially
You
an
can
American
move the
product.
production of Apple to Vietnam. You could move it to Africa. You could move
But that's
it to
not America.
India.
What Trump was promising is that he's going to move all this industry to the United States. And what I'm
Right.
trying to prove to you is that what he's saying he's going to do is not really possible without raising the prices to the astronomical level.
And some things, the price of some things will. You made some misstatements earlier when you was talking about we don't make steel. We're the world's fourth largest producer of steel. What are you talking about? We still
We are
make
the
steel.
fourth. We still make steel, but we don't make it on the level that we used to, and we certainly don't make it on the level that places like China and Brazil and some of the other places do. No, we don't.
Because we're trying to get it back. But fourth is not a bad number. Biden did the CHIPS Act, bringing the manufacturing of chips and semiconductors back into the United States. Like, damn, Alan, you want it to be done overnight? The process has started. Trust the process, man, because you got no alternative other than bending over and letting ourselves get screwed by third world countries.
This is all central planning, communism, and brazen plain sight. So if you love anti-free markets and empowering the consumer and the business owner, and you want to stop people from being able to actually buy and sell freely, then hey man, support this. This is trash, Brandon. This is anti-free market capitalism. Anti-free market capitalism, and is plain sight. This is absolutely central planning. All right, this is communism, bruh.
I don't
So,
agree.
well, you can't disagree because it's a
Well, Trump never
definition that you
said
can't disagree with.
never said that you cannot move it to another country. Trump is just saying, look, if you don't give us fair trade, then we're going to put high ass tariffs on you.
No,
They
he
could move
putting
it to
this.
Vietnam.
No, this is no.
That's not what Trump is saying.
This is a problem. This is a problem for the American corporations, the American companies. You keep talking about the foreign companies that are going to try to export to America, but I'm talking about the importers who are American importers, American consumers, American business owners. That's the focus here. We're taking a loss right now. And it's only going to improve if this arbitrary tariff assessment is actually going to be changed again by the same person who caused it. And when's he going to do it again? You buy into the market and you start doing well, and he hits us with more tariffs because you want something else that has nothing to do with
I think
the
I think a
economy.
lot of what you're saying is speculative, and I think a lot of what you're saying is you're not really thinking about why Trump threatened tariffs. The tariffs were a
He didn't
threat
threaten
because if
tariffs. He
he
did it.
threatened, no, he just suspended the tariffs.
Right.
Trump
But
told you,
do you
listen,
understand the
man,
effect on the
if
market
Trump
when the president says he's going to
if Trump tells
impose
you
tariffs?
if Trump
Everybody's
tells
going
you
to run.
But if Trump tells you they won't ever run because they want to be a part of the American market, man, that's what I'm saying. It's like a pretty girl. Like she could fart. That's not going to make every guy all of a sudden not be attracted to her because she's still going to be beautiful after the stink of her fart subsides.
She's
That's
beautiful,
the
but
reality.
every now and then she sucks the neighbor's dick. And that's what we got
What
going
the
on right
hell?
now.
That was a horrible analogy.
No, every now and then she'll go suck off the neighbor. And you'll be like, damn.
That's crazy.
She's
I
all
don't know.
usually she's good, but now today she's
But
sucking the neighbor
hey,
off.
listen, man. It's like any girl. If she ain't your girlfriend, at least you getting yours. That's how guys think. Like we think she ain't our girlfriend. So even though she might be doing God knows what when I'm not around, at least I'm getting mine. We've all been there with a beautiful woman, whatever. And
I
guess
never
what?
been there,
That's
bro.
fine. But as long as as long as she moans just as much when you give it to her as she does when the neighbor gives it to her, you don't care.
Look,
Now, when you decide to wife
Brandon,
her and marry yourself to her, then it's a problem. But as far
Brandon,
as America, this is a business.
we
It's
are
like falling in
married.
love with a prostitute. That's stupid.
We're married to the market, bro. When you buy shares, your dick is in the wind. If Trump
We got to
wakes up,
stop the cock references. Let's just clean it up.
hey man, if Trump, my fault, if Trump wakes up tomorrow and he increases like O'Leary is saying, he want 400% tariffs, and you're sitting here agreeing with that.
But that's
That's
only on
absurd.
one country.
So what? Maybe that's a great idea, and maybe we'll do it on every country because
China
we've
needs
already did
America. We
across the
don't need
board
China.
tariffs.
Listen, we don't listen. Look, it's like saying this. You a millionaire and you like, look, if my bank doesn't give me good interest rates on my money, right? A good quarterly interest rate, I'm going to another bank. You have nothing to lose. They need your business. You don't need their business because there's a bunch of other banks that want to do business.
Look, America will be fine, but the people who are holding shares right now are going to have to sell in order for there to be a dip. We know there's a dip, and we don't know how deep it's going to go. You might jump in there and buy in, and then Trump imposes more tariffs, or he eliminates tariffs 100%. You have no clue, Brandon. So that makes the market volatile, and it's an arbitrary move, man. And I
That's
don't
what
know how
makes it
you can sit up
exciting.
here as a capitalist and somebody who believes in free markets and agree
Yeah, I
with this,
believe in
man.
free markets, so I believe that everybody should have access to markets fairly. It's
Well,
not fair, and
Jesus
that goes
Christ,
against the idea of free markets, dude.
hey man, free markets has nothing to do with somebody sitting in the damn Oval Office determining how much a share is worth of a privately owned company. So if you like this, I really am still not understanding why. I'm not.
Well, let's all we can do, my brother, is wait and see.
You're right, because again, Trump might wake up tomorrow and tariffs might be across the board, increased everywhere that they already exist, 100%. 200%, 400%. And we're sitting here saying that we agree with that. Kevin O'Leary needs to kick rocks, bro. You
Nah, I think
tripping.
Kevin O'Leary is smart, man,
Kevin O'Leary is leveraging other people's money.
and that makes his situation more risky.
Yeah,
At least we're doing our own
hey,
money.
he'll be all right. But the people who take a loss in those couple hours or days while they iron these things out, they're not going to be happy, bro.
Well, I hope you're wrong about that. Hey, guys, I got to get out of here. I got to take my daughter to volleyball practice. Alan, I was going to give you something to say, but Alan, you said enough. Goddamn, you've committed enough blasphemy against the United States of America, Alan.
Have a good night, man.
Hey, guys, first, lastly, thank you, my brother. I appreciate you coming up.
No problem, man.
Lastly, I want to say thank you to everybody who contributed to the stream. We had some pretty nice super chats in here. We got Philip Sadiq. Thank you, my brother. Good show. Does he have any stocks? I'm sure he does. He sounds like he's pretty invested. Then next we have, oh shoot, let me put him up here. All right. Philip Sadiq is in the building. Dang, I'm going through all this. I don't even know if anybody else contributed to the stream here. But we definitely have some brothers. AD, my boy Ant Dog. Thank you for the $20 holler in the Cash App, my brother. Also, my boy JP from the LB. Thank you for the $5 holler in the Cash App. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Shout out to my boy Jay Jermaine. Thank you for the $10 holler in the Cash App. Shout out to my boy Chill Will. Thank you for the $5 holler in the Cash App. And I think I covered everybody. Thank all y'all. It's still not too late to hit us with a super chat or hit us with a Cash App. You know, I might take my daughter to a nice dinner tonight if y'all hit my Cash App. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate y'all though. I mean, I love these conversations. And I love the fact that this conversation got like a good amount of views. I like that. We need to get these conversations getting the same viewership as we getting on the, Crip Mac got out of jail and the stupid stuff. This is what impacts our lives, right? Everybody, Black people, we are relatively newcomers to the stock market. So we need to be on top of it. We need to keep, like, I love what Game Recognized Game was saying. I love that. I love what Alan was saying. I love what I was saying. I love what my boy L.A. Thor was saying, because it keeps us balanced, right? You should have a reasonable amount of fear, but you should also have a reasonable amount of like confidence, right? And bravery and willingness to take risk. Black people, we are a group of people that are risk averse. We hate taking risks. And guess what happens when you don't take risks? You miss out on opportunities. That's why we're always the last to the party, because we're so scared of taking a risk and it not panning out or working out in our favor. You can't do that. You gotta be willing to jump out there and see what happens. And it ain't always gonna go your way, but you're gonna be a lot better off than you are if you don't take any risk. So we need balanced analysis of things. And what that will do is that'll make it a little bit easier. Right? That'll make it a little bit easier for us to take risk, and it'll give us a little bit more confidence. And once you take your first risk and it pans out for you, bro, you'll be addicted. You'll always be ready to throw something. Hey, let's do this. I got friends, they rich. Them dudes love throwing money at stuff. Hey, bro, you want to do this? I had a homie just talk about we should just sell water at Venice Beach. I guess dudes are making decent money selling water at Venice Beach. He's like, bro, we can just go out there with a cooler and stuff. And bro's rich. But he's just like, he loves trying to like just try stuff out. And I was like, I ain't selling no water at Venice Beach, but that's a good idea for some like little kids, maybe, or whatever. But guess what? I should have did it, because guess why? Why not? What is it going to hurt to sit at the beach and hang out and chill and look at hot chicks walk by the boardwalk and try to sell them waters for $2? Shout out to my boy Chill Will. He hit us with another $25 with a $25 holler in the Cash App. I appreciate you, my brother. Blessings to you and all of yours. But guys, let's keep meeting here. This was the second joint today. I love doing the lives. I love giving y'all this content. You know why? Because it costs me nothing to just sit here and just brainstorm with my peeps. And I'm brainstorming with you. I'm bringing you up in real time. We talking. I don't care if you don't agree with me. Let's talk about it. I love it. Share with your friends and say, this is where we're having real, true discussions. And the host is not trying to take people down and stuff because they don't agree with him. I'm not like that. So thank y'all so much for watching this. I appreciate every single thing you do for me and this channel. Till the next time, take care of yourself. But most importantly, please take care of each other. And we need to get rid of